Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Thursday, April 26, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, your second daily dose of happy for the day. And in the ongoing spirit of looking at the weather, I am happy that it rained yesterday, and I'm so glad the warm weather is back today. So
I have a fun weather thing that, based on what we talked about yesterday, is as I opened my door right before the show yesterday, it started to drizzle. And I thought, oh dear, my lawn people are about to come and cut the lawn, and if they don't cut it, if they don't get here soon or whatever, I don't know. I just didn't want them to cut it while it was wet, which they never do. So what I think I realized later is that, the moment I had that thought like, oh, it's drizzling, but my lawn people are supposed to come, there was I was unaware of the ask, if you will. So I had actually asked for my lawn to be cut while it was dry. And here's what's fascinating. Maybe about 20, 30 minutes later, the lawn guys came out, they cut the lawn. I realized the drizzle didn't go beyond just that short little drizzle, and it stopped. I swear the moment they pulled out from my street, it started pouring, a downpour.
Wow.
So they got the chance to cut the lawn, and then I love it when it rains right after so that the lawn doesn't, have any, what is it called, fatigue or whatever, when it's been cut.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I know I created that. And I had to go back and think about how did I do that? Because it wasn't like I said, I thought about the best way it should go. I just went, oh, it's drizzling. I want my lawn. I know my lawn guys are coming, and I know my preference is for them to cut it when it's still dry. And all of those things immediately manifested without me even having to, write an article to the universe. Here's what I want.
Dear universe.
And so I'm paying so much more attention to how things are showing up. And okay, I know I did it. Whatever's happening in my life, I did it. And I'm paying attention to, and how did I do that? So that's how I dissected that one apart. And that was just fun.
Yeah, that is fun. And perfect timing, too. I mean, like you said, you want to have that rain right after, you have the lawn cut. Maybe not a downpour. Maybe that's not the most ideal kind, but at least it was rain. That's the good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a downpour for in Texas, it lasts all of 10 or 15 minutes and it's over.
Oh, okay.
But a downpour as in it wasn't a drizzle. It was rain.
It was serious rain.
It was. So that was fun. So, law of attraction, it's working all the time. And we know that, but it's fun to see how we interact with it.
Yes.
Because that's our role. We're creators. We like to get our hands in the clay, and I really do. Yeah. So what other fun stuff's going on?
Oh, geez. I mean, it's been a crazy day. Just, I'm plowing ahead, working on the last read-through on editing the stories of the book, and they're all looking really good. I did miss a few things, and I'm correcting those. We've been doing the thing, you know as well as I do, we've been among the co-hosts, we've all been sharing ideas about what to do with the cover, and we're still working that part out. I sent out an email to the whole team of authors, too, to update them and give them a couple of clues about, how we're planning to do the marketing and so forth. I was dealing with some other stuff. I mean, it's been like one thing after another. It's been a crazy, crazy day. Louise called me at one point. Oh, I got to have this quick thing. Do this quick thing for me. Okay, here's the quick thing. And it's just that kind of a day. But it's been good. And then I got out to do my walk, and that was like the icing on top, because now I could relax, I could breathe, I could feel good, and it was the ideal weather for me, the kind that I love the best. So yeah, it's been a good day. I mean, nothing particularly like, oh wow, I got to point at that, but it's been a good day.
That's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of have an interesting update since yesterday on the customer person that I had that was interested in me getting a different merchant account because he couldn't use PayPal or Square. Mm-hmm. And so I got all that taken care of. I was so proud of myself that I got the new merchant account. And I promise you, I would not have done one if there wasn't a need to have that. But at the same time, I'm thrilled that there was a need because it's now done.
Yeah, sure.
And it's, a better rate for me. And it's really just a more professional looking kind of something. So overall, I'm really pleased I have a merchant account. So I send out my, email to him yesterday, and I say, hey, here's the link. Please go ahead and make your payment. And I did that right before the show yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the show, I went and looked, and it was kind of like another hiccup.
Oh, dear.
And this time he said something, I don't remember the first sentence, but the second sentence was, I know, I read some of this to you. He somehow wanted me to enter the information manually instead of him using my link.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, I know he's telling me that he's in the hospital, so I don't know what the circumstances are. And I thought, oh, man, I spent hours with help desk the day before getting my new link all
ready.
set
up.
Right. And now I'm like, okay, if he wants me to enter it manually, that's a whole different process. I don't even know how to do that one. So I quickly go to the system and I look. I'm like, oh, thank God, that's a really easy thing. The form is already created. I just put it in the info. Okay, yay.
That's good.
But I had commented to him, like, send me your credit card info in an email. And then you said to me right before the show, you said, hey, that's not a good thing. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So afterwards, you told me how from a security perspective, that was not a cool thing. So I was like, I'm totally in agreement with you. So when you and I ended our call, I emailed him back and I said, after sending you my last email, I recognize that it's not safe for you or me if we do this via email. So I said, I really prefer that you use the link that I provided below, which I thought that's not what he wanted, but I was kind of feeling like, but that's what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the next email said something like, well, I will text you the information.
Oh, geez, that's even worse.
See, and I didn't know that, but I was like, okay. But what I said, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about my energetics, because I recognize it's really important to follow the energy of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the energetics at that point was, he sure is asking for an awful lot. And he doesn't answer most of my questions. But I'm going to ask him one, because I said, I prefer you make the payment through this link. Is there a specific reason, why this is a problem for you?
Nice question.
And then he responded back. And I noticed that it wasn't just once he didn't answer my questions. Now I'm noticing almost every time I ask a question, he doesn't answer it.
Mm.
And he went on to say, I don't know. I think I gave him my cell phone number, and then, I asked the question, and his response did not answer my question. And he now went on to say, oh, what was it? There was something he said yesterday. Oh, I know, because I said it to you. When he said he didn't think it was secure online, then he said, I want to also ask you a favor.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when it came to the favor, oh, my God, all of my red flags went up.
Uh-oh.
Like, this just has the feel of spam or scam,
mm-hmm.
or somebody who's out for no good.
Yep.
Because this is supposed to be just a normal transaction.
Right.
I'm a life
mm-hmm.
coach. He's going to pay me for life coaching.
Mm-hmm.
This is getting into something way deeper. So now he doesn't answer the thing about what's the favor yet. He's still going on about the payment. And I mean, we went back and forth like 6 times after you and I talked yesterday.
Wow.
And now he gets into the favor.
Okay.
Because now it's like there's nothing left to talk about except for him to make a payment to me. And now he says, what I would like you to do, now he was going to pay me $1,000. What I would like you to do is for you to manually enter into your system $3,600, and $1,000 of which is for your services, and then $2,500. I would like you'll love this. I would like you to bank transfer.
Oh, jeez, it's one of those
to
deals.
my private limo driver for refreshments, transportation, and accommodations for blah, 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 blah that will take place over the next 4 weeks. And then keep $100 for a tip for you.
Oh, how nice of him.
By this time, I'm laughing hysterically. Like, I knew what was coming.
Oh, yeah.
But the energy I was getting is just let it play itself out so you can get the evidence. Just let itself play out. And so then my next reply was, I'm sorry, but that is not something that I'm going to do. I am in the life coaching services.
Not money lending.
Yes. And then he responds back. And I mean, this is a guy, his original story is he's in a hospital and they don't let him on cell phone or internet often.
Of course.
The next one goes on to say, like I've told you before, which he hadn't, which now I'm thinking, oh, he's getting his scams mixed up.
Probably.
Like I've told you before, I'm in the hospital with lung cancer, about to go into surgery, and I'm in intensive care. Now, I don't know anybody who's intensive care who can text or email this often.
It's actually quite active.
Well, and the reason he needs me to handle this money thing for him is because his limo driver, bless his heart, does not have a credit card merchant account.
Right, of course. Yes.
And so
because of course you need a merchant account in order to go pay for your milk.
Well, I was just laughing myself silly with this. And I thought, okay, I am so grateful that I followed the energy. And that in the beginning, my friend Keisha, she had all her red flags going up, but I didn't. And I'm not saying I was wrong, but what I'm saying is the energy for me was I was getting the nudge. It's time for you, Wendy, to open a new merchant account. And law of attraction will always use the path of least resistance. And so here was a reason for me to open a merchant account. Okay, so I did. As soon as the merchant account piece was done, all of a sudden the energy started to shift for me. And I started to like be more aware of what he was writing, and I was tapping into what he was communicating. And I'm like, oh, this is a scam. This is not legitimate at all. He doesn't have need for his nieces and daughters to come see me, for life coaching services.
Right.
This is not for real. But I loved how I was getting the hit. Just follow the energy. Just keep following the energy and see what happens. So I was like giving him a little bit, and he was coming back a little bit more. And now our pace, it's like we were getting momentum. And so now it's like I could tell when he finally divulged, here's the money scheme I want you to do. It's almost as though I could feel him like, oh, he thought he baited a big fish.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, it doesn't work that way in Wendy World. And so when I said no to him, he came back the most he'd written in any one email to me. It was a full paragraph of how his whole sad luck story. And I couldn't help but giggle at it. Not at his situation, but at the beauty in how, because I follow my inner guidance and because I was receiving the messages that I wasn't taken for anything. I didn't lose anything on this. Did I gain a client? No. And that's okay, because I really was never 100% like invested, like, oh, this has to happen. How exciting. I'm going to get a client, with a big sum of dollars. It's like, no. And I kept saying to myself, this is either going to happen or it's not. And in the meantime, I'm going to do the guidance that comes to me, which was open a merchant account.
Well, you got there. That's the main thing.
Say that again, Walt?
You got there. You got to what you needed to. You need to open the account. So,
yes.
That's the most important thing.
And now, last night, the next thing that came to me, like, this is not over. It is with him. I'm done communicating with him.
Good thing.
But because I thought, all the times that he's left me hanging, it's time for him to be left hanging. And he did all this work over the last 2 weeks to get this set up for him to get some big sting. And now let him wait. So anyway, so as I was, kind of like letting the evening kind of come to a close, the thought came to me, I brought this into my world.
Mm.
So how did I attract this?
Good
I wonder what
question.
energy in me created this.
Mm.
So I went to sleep with that idea. And then somewhere around 5 a.m, I was awakened, and the idea just kind of started rolling in my head. Like, so what in me created this, or what in me attracted this? What's the energy that I'm seeking? And by the time morning hit and I woke up, I don't have the full answer yet, but where I landed with it so far is I have had scamming scenarios in my life. I had one financial scam one time when I was married. And then, like, on different dating apps, I seem to attract a lot of scamming men. And I know that the what do you call it? The profile that men on dating sites go for is somebody who's about my age, single, not well off, but, not in poverty,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can get close for the purpose of monetary gifts and monetary exchanges. And,
Right.
I've had men where, we're texting or emailing, and they'll start telling me their sad luck story. And I'm like, oh, the next thing they're going to ask for money, and they do. And then I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like I can spot them within usually one email.
Mm-hmm.
I
Sure.
mean, I've gotten really good at it.
Yeah, I imagine.
But there've been a lot of them. I also get them through Facebook, where somebody wants to befriend me, and I'll. Not everybody knows this, but you can copy the image, like, to your hard drive, and then go into Google Images and upload that image. And I love how it will search every picture. And I have found where somebody had literally stolen some deceased military man, his photograph and his identity, and he's posing as a live person, wanting to befriend me on Facebook. And I've had this happen more than one time. But the point is, as I was thinking about this morning, I'm like, I've had a long track record with scam energy. So I want to find out what that's about so that I can remove that energy, so I can shift that, and I don't know what it is about yet, but I'm sharing with you what I have so far, but I'm not going to let go until I find it, because, the truth is, even though this is an interesting experience to get interesting way to get a new merchant account, I don't need it. I don't want any more scammers anymore.
No, you don't really need that. No.
No. And because even on a dating app, it's like, it's kind of just a waste of time, because you go back and forth only to find out, oh, this is a dead end.
I was trying to remember. There was something I went through very recently, like within the last year and a half, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was the exact same kind of scam. I think it was, what was it? Something I had advertised, one of my services. I don't know what it was. I just can't remember. But this guy had responded to an ad, and his initial come on was kind of similar. It wasn't sick in a hospital. Actually, the he was a she. he was representing himself as a famous African singer who I looked up. And this singer was on her world tour, and she had a son who was looked after by a nanny in their apartment in New York City. What was the service? I can't remember what the service was. Well, whatever the service was, he wanted me to do the service. I still don't remember what it was. But whatever it was, he wanted me to do the service. And after all the shenanigans unfolded, he also wanted me to pay the limo driver. It was the same kind of thing. Pay the limo driver.
Oh, really?
Extra. Yeah. That was the part that was similar.
Special about limo drivers.
Yeah. So I actually went one step further with him. I made him go through the time and expense of sending me by Federal Express his fraudulent check that he was going to have me deposit into my bank account.
Really? Oh, that's fun.
That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one. Then when it came, I took it to the police department. They said, well, it's nice, but we can't do anything with it, so I just threw it out. But I made the scammer waste a lot of money when he thought he was going to be making a lot of money. So that was kind of my little way of just getting my jollies in. It's sad,
well, and
though.
I did think think about all the clever things that I could respond, to his last email. And I really thought through every one very carefully. And I really felt like the best gotcha is to do nothing.
Oh, yeah, because now you're left hanging, right?
Yeah, because now he doesn't know what I think.
Mm-hmm.
For all he knows, I'm just really busy and I couldn't get back to him.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, the same thing with this other guy. Once I figured out it was a guy and I had received his check, and of course I wasn't doing anything with it. And then he was frantically trying to get a hold of me. I think he had my cell phone number and he had my email address, and he was like sending me message after message after message. And I was going block, 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 block. Because you had gotten to the point, like you had given him what he needed. I gave him what he wanted.
I've got this fish on the hook.
Yeah.
Which is really, really pretty interesting. So, yeah, I'm really wanting to dive deeper, and this is where I'm at, in my personal investigation with my inner being, wanting to dive deeper into what's the energy, what's the thoughts, what are the beliefs that I have had in place that have allowed this to come in. And so far, what I've also received was, this is an old energy. This isn't really something that I really even think or believe today.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
It's still active enough because I haven't quite identified what that energy or belief is to acknowledge it and then replace it with something else that I know to be more true.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do know that it's not a big deal, because if it was a big deal, I would have been so emotionally invested in this whole process, and I would have been so disappointed when it fell apart. But none of those emotional things were present at all through this experience. So that's kind of one of the telltale signs I have when I know it's what I would call like an old obsolete energy. It just needs to be found, and then you flick it away, as I focus on something new and positive. But
actually, there's a positive in here too. The positive, besides the fact that you got the merchant account, is that you got one more piece of verification that you're easily found, because they found you. I mean, they didn't have to dig very far, and I'm sure they didn't dig very far,
Oh, I'm findable, all right.
I mean, it's not like these scammers are so sophisticated. I'm going to just ferret out this one person who's so difficult to find. No, they're going for the easy ones. They're not that good at it, If they were that good at it, they wouldn't be scamming.
This is when I wish I knew somebody that was very tech savvy who could identify the person's IP address so that this person could be found. Although I don't know what you would do with them, because he hadn't actually committed a crime, in my case. In my case, there's nothing that, pardon me?
In my case, he had actually committed a crime. He had passed a fraudulent check. In fact, the check was so fraudulent, it was obviously fraudulent. It was on a bank that the bank existed, but you looked at the check, there's no way it could have been from that bank. I mean, it was just so badly put together. Wow. So, he clearly committed a crime, but still there was not much that the police could do. I mean, the police wanted to do something, but they said they've tried to follow up on this stuff in the past. And the problem is, these guys work through so many different indirect channels that you can never actually get to them. And it becomes too cost prohibitive to just keep following up on all the leads.
And so in my case, I'm making an assumption here, because I don't deal with fraud. I don't deal with these cases to have a whole bunch of possibilities in my head for what this could be.
Yeah.
But the only assumption I have right now is that he's using a stolen credit card and
at the least
doesn't want to be connected with it at all and wants the cash.
Yeah, right.
Because he can't go to a bank and say, hey, here's my stolen credit card. Could you give me some money on it?
Yeah, well, he could do that. Just wouldn't the con wouldn't last very long. But
No. So he's wanting to turn a stolen credit card into cash, and this was his fraudulent way to do it. But I'm like, really? I mean, when he wrote the word bank deposit, I'm like, you want me to be a banking institution now? I don't think so.
I've often wondered if that kind of thing actually has ever worked. Is there anybody who's ever been duped by it? I mean, it's quite possible that somebody has been duped by that.
I went online today because I thought this might help me understand or get some insight into my own background. So I was like looking up, like, what's the profile of someone who gets scammed and you know, fraudulent stuff. And oh my gosh, I was reading these articles where hundreds and thousands of dollars come from especially elderly people that are scammed.
Oh, yeah.
And what it takes is fear.
Well, sure.
Or desperation. And I know that would be the case for me because I was getting desperate for love and money. Those are the things I've had in my life. So I know it's connected to that.
Okay.
Because and that's an easy thing to think about, like for the dating scam.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, let's say there's a woman or man who, you know, just feels lonely and just really wants a lover or a companion, and they're really desperate for love. And if they feel like they have somebody who's paying them a lot of attention, that's a huge ego boost, and it feels great. I'm just not that woman. I mean, not that I'm not emotionally connected, but I mean,
good for you.
I remember one guy was sending me poems every single night. And I went and I copied the poems, and I found that, because he was saying he wrote them, but I found every single one of them online as kind of a quotable something. And I'm like, okay, well, you're a scammer.
Yeah, right.
You know, and he's trying to woo me, and he wouldn't talk to me by phone because I said, I want to talk. And he said, I can only text because the phone part of his cell phone was broken. And then he had all sorts of excuses why he kept promising, oh, I'm going to be at a landline on such and such day and I'll call you from then. And then there was an excuse as to why that didn't happen. And so the fact he could never talk to me made me also think he probably didn't speak English well.
Could be.
You know,
yeah.
So, and like this guy who I've been, you know, communicating with, he didn't speak English well either. So.
Very interesting.
So
you know what the other interesting thing is about this kind of story? Because I mean, there are lots of people out there who do try to do this kind of fraudulent stuff. I mean, by lots, I mean more than one. There are a significant number of them, and a lot of them are from other countries. One of the hotbeds of this kind of thing is Nigeria. There's a lot of people in Nigeria.
Oh yeah, the word Nigeria, prince, and inheritance.
Yeah, that's
if any
right.
of those three words are in an email from an unknown source, don't trust it.
Just don't even open the darn thing. It's not worth it. But the simple fact that there are so many people doing this, and they're doing these things that, I mean, they don't work, but they're creative. I mean, look at all the trouble the guy went to invent this entire story. And I keep thinking to myself, what if somebody like this actually understood how the law of attraction worked and used their ability to create by applying it that way? Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, essentially, that would eliminate scam because they don't need to be a scam artist at that point.
Well, good point.
That's what's so interesting about it. I mean, these are people who are demonstrating they have a tremendous ability to create with their minds. All they just need to learn to do is learn how the process works so they can do it in a way that actually works for them without having to rip somebody off.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So hopefully by tomorrow I will be able to update this story and say that I figured out what the energy, my obsolete energy is from my past as to what I've been believing and thinking on, so I could flip that around.
Well, I hope you find something, because if you do, tell me what it is, because I've had a few incidents in my past, too. Not that one that I told you is the most recent one, but that would help answer some questions for me, too. So, yeah, let us know.
And your thought or belief may be different than mine.
True. Oh, yeah, but I'm figuring that one's a pointer. You know, if I know the general direction of what yours came from, then I can kind of look in similar areas of my own gray recesses.
Well, and who knows how many people who are listening might go, oh, I got that one too.
I got that one too, right?
Similar to that. That's why I always think it's valuable to talk about the bizarre things that happen in my life, not because everybody needs to know every weird, stupid thing that happens in my life. But, you know, when you're living in the world of law of attraction, it's amazing how many things are connected, you know, and someone who let's say they listen to only 2 shows or 1 show ever, and they listen to the 1 show that has meaning for them because that's the answer they were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That kind of thing I'm sure happens all the time, and not just with our podcast, but with other kinds of shows as well. That's why people like to listen to stuff. They pick things up, and it's an entertainment, and it's fun, and it's enjoyable. Otherwise, they don't keep listening, you know? It's the way it works. Why would you want to listen to something? I don't like that. I'm going to keep listening to it because I don't like that. I don't like it.
Actually, yesterday I was talking to a young man who was wanting to sell me ads for Yelp because I had just created a profile on Yelp.com.
Oh, okay.
And so he was showing me around and showing me the demographics, and I was pretty impressed with it. And, I said it's not something I want to do right now because Yelp is really for like a local market. But I said I am kind of retooling a product offering that could be something where I want to do it for my local area. So he's going to call me back in a couple months and we're going to talk. But in the meantime, he got to know that I was a law of attraction coach. And he was looking at my website and he said, yeah, I see you have this podcast. And I said, yeah, if you want to know more about law of attraction, it's a great way to do it. And he goes, well, actually, I have a friend who just became a life coach and I've been really hearing a lot about law of attraction. So in our exchange today, when he was thanking me and I was thanking him, he said, yeah, and I'm going to listen to your podcast.
Oh, great. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of fun. So, hello, Mr. Yelp guy. If you're on the line today, good to have the conversation yesterday, and thanks for listening today.
Yeah, we love having you as a listener. That's fantastic. It's amazing. It's amazing how the law of attraction delivers listeners to us. I mean, because we don't know all the stories, obviously, but every once in a while we do get one of the stories, and when we hear the story, it's like, wow, I couldn't have predicted that one in a million years.
I know. It is pretty amazing. That's why there is nothing that happens arbitrarily.
Right.
There is some kind of synchronistic connection for every single thing that occurs.
It is. It is true. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And
I didn't believe that once upon a time, but I have so much evidence in my life that it's so spot on that, it's hard to say, nah, that's a coincidence. No.
And I have a suspicion that there's not going to be a day that will ever come where we are not enthralled by that experience, by that phenomenon. I think it's going to continuously always be, wow, look what happened.
Yeah, and Abraham has such a fun response to things like that.
Oh, what's
and
that?
Because they say that's child's play for the things that we actually can accomplish on your behalf.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, that's what makes it so fascinating. I mean, I really do believe that we have barely scratched the surface of this stuff. And that as time goes on, we're going to learn more and more. And it's just going to be one mind-blowing episode after another.
Yep. So shall we get into our book to at least cover, one section? Because, we'd like to at least say we're actually covering it based on what our subject matter is, that you've posted.
This is actually one time, it's a fairly rare time, where I can't find a tie between what we've been talking about and the subsection. But it's still okay.
That's okay.
So once again, the book we're covering is The Law of Attraction, the basics of the teachings of Abraham. We're in part 3. And the subsection we're on is My Point of Power is Right Now? ? And Jerry asks, Abraham, there's a phrase from the Seth books that says your point of power is in the present. What does that mean to you?
And Abraham says, whether you are thinking about something that is occurring right now, or about something that has happened in your past, or about something that you would like to happen in your future, you are doing the thinking right now. You are offering your vibration of thought in your present, and it is the present thought vibration that the law of attraction is always responding to. Therefore, your power to create is now. It is also helpful to acknowledge that your emotion is coming forth in response to your current thought, whether it concerns your past, present, or future. The greater the emotion you are feeling, the more powerful your thought is, and the faster you are attracting into your experience things that match the essence of that thought. You could be recalling an argument you had with somebody many years earlier, or with someone who may have died 10 years ago. But as you're recalling the argument now, you are activating the vibration of it now, and your current point of attraction is being affected by it now.
I have to say that's quite a trick, too, to remember an argument from 10 years ago. And I'm not saying that's impossible. I know that there are times, particularly if there's a traumatic thing involved, people remember that. But I have trouble remembering an argument I had last week. So trying to remember one from 10 years ago is usually pretty difficult for me.
Well, I think the key component to this would be something that it was highly charged.
It has to be, yeah.
Yeah. You know, because I don't even remember stuff that happened yesterday, but if it made a really big impact on you,
Right.
either in a plus or minus way, those are the kinds of things that you can, bring back into the now easily.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the kind that we.
People,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's why people who've had trauma in their past, because it was so deeply impactful, they can like relive it in the now so quickly with all the same intensity. They can boohoo all over again, as though it was happening to them right this second.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. And that's probably where most people get stuck with stuff more than anything else, just on reliving stuff from the past and not letting go of it. Which is a fascinating phenomenon all by itself. I mean, it's traumatic for them, obviously, because they're going through it. But just from a third-party viewpoint, it's fascinating because it illustrates just how good we are at not only building up beliefs about things, but sticking with them long past when they're useful to us. And yet we can keep sticking and sticking and sticking with them. And we're pretty powerful to do that kind of thing.
Well, this whole concept of everything's in the now is such a fascinating thought. I mean, I know there's the book, The Power of Now, which is all about this. I think that's by Eckhart Tolle.
Right.
And that didn't really make sense to me when I read his book. I had a hard time really understanding it then. I now have no problem understanding it because I've taken the words and the concept and I've allowed myself to pay attention to my life. And I've been recognizing how I do bring the past, the present, and the future into now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I was working with someone a while ago, and this person has panic disorder. And so it's like they can take a thought and it very quickly escalate it into a concern. And with one more thought, it becomes worrisome. And with one more thought, it goes into huge anxiety. And with one more thought, that they can be over the edge with panic and needing to grab for their antidepressants.
Wow.
Because this person just has had a habitual experience throughout life of going to like full-blown panic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fascinating because as we were kind of dissecting it, we were looking at things that they were thinking about in the future. Now, the future could be tomorrow. It could be a week from now. It could be a year from now. But they imagine through their thought process the most horrific escalation of possibility of something becoming really horrendous and torturous on so many graphic levels.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, I mean, that's the ultimate 0 to 60 in like 2.3 seconds.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
But I understood, like by looking at somebody who does that habitually, it's something that has not even occurred. It's something that they don't even know will occur for certain. They don't have absolute certainty on it. But just their consideration of it causes them to go into so much reality that their body is acting as though that horrific thing is happening right this second. And that's why they're grabbing for their antidepressants in order to like take a chemical, something to cause their body to calm down.
Yeah, calm the pain, right.
But the truth is it didn't even happen.
Yeah.
It was literally them sitting there just talking about it and imagining it, and boom, off and running, and it's as though it already happened.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I'm so impressed with how powerful the human mind is. And everybody's mind, not just a few people. I mean, you're describing somebody who's obviously in a lot of pain. They're dealing with some rough stuff. And yet look how powerful their mind is. How quickly they're able to accelerate it. Holy cow. I mean, it must be exciting for you as a coach because all you have to do is help that person kind of change their perspective around, and they're going to fly because look how much power they're demonstrating.
And that is the excitement of being a coach. And on the other side of it, I can't change someone's perception.
No.
I can offer them thoughts that will bring relief.
Right.
But I can't even, I can like have some influence.
Yeah.
But they still have to make the choice.
Yeah, they have to do it.
to consider it as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody says to me over and over, I know what you're saying could be true, but that's not my experience. It's not my experience. And they keep going on and on like a broken record.
Yep.
But that's not my experience. Well, that tells me this person is highly invested in holding on to this pain and holding on to these events the way they keep occurring. And they think they want to get over it.
Sure.
But they kind of sort of don't. And I said one time to a person in this scenario, I said, I know you came to me because you tell me you want out of pain, but the truth is I don't believe it.
Oh.
I believe you really like your pain. And they look, their response was like, no, I don't. That's why I came to you. I said, no, I think I have proof that you like your pain.
Ooh.
Because you're in pain all the time, and you call me, and we have session after session after session, but you don't move out of your pain because you're not willing to even consider thinking anything different than the way you've always been thinking, which is what always results in pain.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'll tell you who doesn't like pain. Me. They're like, huh? I said, I hate pain so much that when I start to feel pain, I will do anything it takes to think something different. And I will promise you, I'm out of pain within 15 minutes. Now, I'm not talking physical pain. I'm talking about emotional pain.
Right.
I will do whatever it takes to choose different thoughts and focus on different things to get myself out of emotional pain because I don't like it. And I said, so honestly, between you and me, I think I hate pain more.
You turned it into a competition. I love it.
Well, I was losing with this person. We weren't getting anywhere. I'm like, what do I have left?
Oh, that's funny. That is funny.
And I'll tell you, that still wasn't enough to change this person's considerations of how she was thinking.
Yeah.
She still held on to it. And, she just kind of went, oh, well, I don't know what else to do. And I went, okay. And, that's, eventually, there was some turnaround. But in that call, there wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I realized my job as a coach is not to, quote, fix them.
That's right.
Or I don't even have to be there when they get their own epiphany.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm just the catalyst. And in this case, I purposely tried to push her over the edge a little bit because I was trying to do anything I could to shake her out of her fixed point of view.
Mm. Yeah.
And eventually it did work. It didn't work in the moment that I was saying the words.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how fixed she was on her point of view.
Yeah.
And I know this person is in a much better state today.
Good.
But that, we're talking about bringing stuff from the future into the now. That to me is an extreme situation, but that's not the only person I've ever talked to or experienced where they love to bring the future problems into today so they could be in fits of fury today.
Yeah.
But in the same way, we do that with our past. And this is the one that was harder for me personally to relinquish. Because when there was something from the past that, unlike this, client I'm talking about where it was a future thing where it really hadn't even happened and maybe never would, if I know I've had something occur in the past, it really did happen to me in the past. I can call it the circumstances a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be able to say what it meant is a fact because that's not absolute.
Right.
But the fact that it happened on this particular day with these particular people, this really did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if that situation, and I'll just pick one, if one particular situation caused me huge, extreme amounts of emotional pain and duress, that was real in my life.
Sure.
But if I keep talking about it, it becomes real every single time I talk about it.
Right.
And I'm reliving it and reliving it and reliving it. And when I started to understand this concept, not only from Abraham, but from Eckhart Tolle and from others saying, if you bring your baggage from the past and talk about it today, you're actually adding to your level of pain because you're now experiencing it again today. And I heard the words, but I didn't know how to let go of the pain.
Mm.
So it's kind of easy to say it, but it's another thing. I had a habitual habit of holding on to the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just took a lot of consideration on my part to go, how do I let go of the pain? And, it's don't think on it.
Yeah.
How can you not think about something that you're wanting to change?
It seems like it's going to be there forever. It doesn't have to be, but it seems like it.
And even in this moment, I can't say that I have a clean answer as to how to do it, except you and your own inner being have to think it through and just go, I don't want to be in pain anymore. And maybe that's step one.
I think that's it right there. Yeah, that is the step.
I don't want to be in pain anymore.
Yeah.
How do you want to feel? I want to feel good. I want to feel free.
And step two, I think, step two has to be, I am willing to do whatever it takes to get away from this pain. I am willing to make whatever change I have to make, no matter how impossible it may seem. I'm willing to do that. Because that to me is how you can finally start to get that mindset out of the way.
Well, and if that's too big of an ask, if you just start with, I wonder what it would feel like to feel free from this. I know that everybody's inner being can utilize just that level of willingness and can start calling the individual toward the space of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And how it gets all untwisted in the mind, that's an individual thing between that person and their inner being. And I know it happens. I've done it for myself many, many times. But, the point is, it's so easy to feel that the past is the present because we keep bringing it back into the present. Every time we rethink the old painful thought, it's happening now to us.
Yeah.
And our body reacts as though it's happening now.
Well, you mentioned how reading Tully was confusing for you at first, and for me, it wasn't so much that it was confusing. Actually, believe it or not, I hate to say this, it was putting me to sleep. It's true. And the reason it was putting me to sleep is I was getting bored because, so many of these books, I mean, this is true of Abraham Hicks, it's true of, it's even true of The Secret, it's true of any of the books in this genre or any of the self-help genre. What they spend a large portion of the time doing is they lay out the basic concept, and then they show all the different ways that it's not being used by people who are in difficulty or pain or struggling or whatever. And you read enough of that difficulty and pain and struggling or whatever. If I do that, my first reaction literally is to fall asleep. I just can't, my brain will not accept having to listen to that or read it or watch it or whatever for too long a period of time. It just wants to shut down. And that's what happened. It's just like my brain just couldn't handle reading one more page of someone's pain because they were stuck because they couldn't, grasp this thing or deal with this thing or handle this thing that the author was presenting in the book. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't be. It was one bridge too far.
So, for you, did you fast forward in the book, or did you
pretty
say
much.
I'm done?
Yeah, I got about a third of the way through, and I was having this reaction, and then I just started skimming through. Okay, he's going to talk about that next. Okay, got that. Going to talk about that. Yeah, got that. Talk about that. I just went through and just eliminated it, and finally I got to the last portion of the book where he does his sum up, and now he's not talking about pain stuff anymore, and I enjoyed that part. I just couldn't read the rest of it. It was too much.
Well, that reminds me of sometimes when I watch movies, especially if it's a movie I've already seen, because you're the one who tells me this all the time about how a movie has the different elements, and part of it is there's always a struggle, so then you can resolve the struggle.
Right, yeah.
But when they go into the struggle, I'm like, yeah, I already know what's going to happen. I don't want to watch it again. I fast forward until they're resolving it, and it's like, oh, I'm feeling so much better.
We do the same thing. I mean, we have a number of favorite movies that we have on DVD that we'll play periodically, and there's always those certain sections that we just don't even want to have to go there. So, we'll just zip right past that and go to the next part. We do that all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I even do that with some animated things. I mean, isn't that just
really?
You'd think that an animated cartoon that's, for kids won't have anything unpleasant, but even The Lion King, there's parts in it where, there's a character that dies, and it's like you have fallen in love with that character, and I don't want to see that again.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we're going to fast forward and listen to the music that makes me happy.
And what I've realized is what we're actually doing when we do stuff like that is we're showing ourselves love. We're basically saying, I don't want to keep traumatizing myself. I think I deserve to be entertained without being traumatized. So I'm not going to traumatize myself. That's what we're really saying when we zip past all this stuff. So I think it's a very healthy thing.
Well, and then on the flip side, I've also in some movies been able to know that the struggle part is about to come, but I know how it ends. And so while the struggle part's going on, let's say the remote's nowhere near me, I'll just say, but I know this is going to have a happily ever after.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing is he's got to get from here, because this is his contrast, and it's going to cause him to start desiring the resolution. And so this is just a necessary part of it, but it doesn't mean he's going to stay there. And see, I do my own self-talk
Mm-hmm.
when I do watch the movie all the way through. You know, especially if I'm watching it with someone who's never seen it, I can't go, sorry, we're going to skip this part.
Well, yeah, right. That's a different situation. Yeah.
Right. So then
right.
I just do my own self-talk saying, that's okay, he's going to get through this. I don't have to put a whole lot of stock in it, and I don't have to get emotionally invested in the feelings, because I can let it just kind of wash right through me, and it does. So there's a way to handle everything if you're deliberately mindful
Mm-hmm.
about how you want to feel.
Yes. And I agree. That approach is just as equally valid, because what you're really doing is you're disciplining yourself. You're training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on and not be distracted by what, quote, reality, unquote, wants you to focus on. You must focus here. Well, you're choosing not to do that. You're choosing to reframe it and to look at it in a way that empowers you, makes you feel stronger, gives you the skill that you need to be even better at being a deliberate creator as you go forth in your life.
So there's a show on Showtime called Billions, and I think it might be in its third season.
Okay.
And I watched a couple episodes last night, because they're recorded, but I kind of like to binge watch them when I do. And so I don't like to do them one at a time, because I'm always ready for the next one. But I binge watched two of them back to back last night. And I thought, what is it about this that I like? Why am I compelled? Because this show is really dark. It makes all politics look as though there's nothing sacred about our laws and our system of justice. It's like every single action that takes place in this show is about corruption.
Wow.
You know, it's like this one has this secret, and this one has made this deal with this, and now this one has to pay this one back for a previous deed that was done. And I mean, there's just so much sneakiness and behind the scenes espionage and just all this. And I'm like, what is it about this show I'm drawn to? And I have not answered the question.
Well, I can give you a partial answer, at least in terms of what it is for me, not from watching that show, because I don't even know the show. I've never heard of that one. But I am a person, and you are too, I know. I don't generally watch the news, and I don't really follow news. But I do have one exception. I've been enjoying following the whole craziness associated with the Russia investigation and President Trump and all this, you know, the prostitute and all that other stuff, because it's a complete soap opera. And I was mentioning it to Louise one time. I said, I wonder what it is that makes it so fascinating. And she said, because it's a train wreck. And I said, yeah, that's it. I mean, there is something fascinating about watching a train wreck. It's the reason why people go to stock car races. They go for the crashes.
So and I've heard that. I mean, that's even just a phrase that's part of our vocabulary. You know, it's like it's a train wreck.
It's a train wreck.
You can't look away because it's like a train wreck. So what is underneath that? What is our fascination about watching things crash and burn?
I don't know, because it's not something I normally have. That's what's so fascinating to me, that I am still drawn to watching this craziness going on. I think part of it is, maybe it has something to do with why you're watching that Billions show. There is a fascinating aspect to just watching people behave in ways that are so completely different from the way I would behave, and just marveling, like, how do you even do that?
Yeah, I mean, the story writers are so complicated. I honestly, literally have never been able to follow one storyline. I'm on season 3. I've not been able to follow it all the way through. I have to just kind of, what do they call it, suspend
Suspended
the
disbelief.
disbelief.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't really know what they're talking about, but I do get the energy that this person now beholds to another person. Okay, fine. But I don't really know what these things mean. And I don't know if it's because I don't know this stuff about politics and laws, or if it's just they're so deep in their storylines. But holy cow. I don't know. But see, now it's got me wondering, like, yeah, I mean, even on the news, we'll see like a tornado and they'll show the same tornado film over and over and over.
Oh, yeah.
And it is pretty wild to see things like a tractor and a car lifted off the ground, blowing around in a circular pattern. That is wild.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why the movie Twister did so well. Because that's exactly what they did. They showed stuff like that up close, really personal, in a way that most people had never, ever seen, including me. So it was fascinating to watch.
So I don't know. My brain is going back to the email exchange I talked about at the top of the show. And even though I feel it's best for me to just stop the communication, there is a part of me that wants to keep going because it's like I want to see how far this guy will go. It's like I want to be. And here was another thought. I somehow had built up this image of a very powerful man, kind of like the Godfather kind of image, smoking a stogie, in the hospital.
Of course. The one thing that the hospital wants.
I don't know why I came up with that image, but I really had that image. And then yesterday when I realized, oh, this is a fraud scam, all of a sudden I literally shrunk this man who was like the Godfather down to size, like 5'8", about 115 pounds, dripping wet, in a shirt with his sleeves rolled up, kind of like leathered skin. It was amazing how literally my interpretation of how I saw him in my mind's eye shifted from big and powerful to skinny and scrawny and powerless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. But I did have my own mild curiosity. Like, I wonder how far I could take this now that I'm not sucked in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Because in a way, I was sucked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting energy. I can go back to the very first day that I received the email from him, and I do recall what I felt. And I remember feeling a little like, this is weird. But I'll just go ahead and engage him and see, what it is he's really wanting. But the very first thing he asked me was, are you a life coach and do you accept credit card payments?
Mm-hmm.
Which that was the literal setup of his scam.
Right.
And had I known that, I would have seen it for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember asking myself, why is he asking me if I'm a life coach? Like somehow if he's reaching out to me at wendydiller.com, he somehow is connected with my website. That was my assumption.
Yeah, well, sure.
So I'm thinking, why is he asking if I'm a life coach? I think it's pretty clear that I'm a life coach when you look at my website.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wants to know if I take credit card payments. And I'm thinking, that's an odd thing to ask right out of the bat. I mean, most people want to know, hey, can you help me with the following thing?
Right.
I'm dealing with anxiety or I'm having relationship issues. They don't ask me about the credit card payment yet.
Nope.
It's kind of like that's maybe step 5 in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I really did have a feeling like this feels odd to me. And then as we went back and forth and he was not being clear in answering the specific questions I was asking, I do remember feeling I'm just going to let go of this. I'm just going to see where this takes me. But as I look back on it, I did have the red flags, but I was feeling like I'm safe. There's no harm here. And just let's see where it goes.
And I can tell you this, that no matter how you look at it, not only is he completely out of time, but so are we. So we're going to have to carry on the conversation tomorrow. But it's been fun.
We got one paragraph in from our book.
We did.
Yay.
Yes, we got that section in. And we'll be doing the next section tomorrow. We hope you join us as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye now.